This radio station was named Guattari, in honor of the last French schizoanalyst, to whom infinite speed means production of subjectivity. The question is not when she's gonna stop, but who is gonna stop him, her. I need a refrain. What's the refrain? It's the sign particles for chaos. Hello, my name is Keiichiro ARIMA. Welcome to my radio freedom station RFS. Chaosmos Media in Japan. The incorporeal universe's U, or plane of immanence as chaos. The representation of chaos by Felix Guattari. Introduction. Since the time of the ancient Greeks, chaos has been considered one of the roots underlying everything or underlying the world. In the 20th century, chaos was developed into a branch of mathematics, e.g. Mandelbrot. However, Felix Guattari criticizes the static representation of chaos. For Guattari, chaos plays a very important role in the production of subjectivity. How does Guattari perceive chaos? Chaos is found in relation to the incorporeal universes, U, and to the machinic phylum, Phi, which constitute the plane of immanence. The main object of this presentation is to clarify the importance of chaos and its role for Guattari. Chapter 1. The principle of the production of subjectivity. Guattari depicted the production of subjectivity as the generation of the aesthetic in the mechanism of the psyche, and as a positive transformation with a structure of eternal recurrence. They are depicted as a cohesive whole with several functions and transformations. These functions are as follows: module, expressive, synaptic, diagrammatic, and existential. The transformations are singularization, irreversibilization, necessitation, and heterogenesis. What is important in the production of subjectivity is to bring a kind of chaos into the psyche mechanism. Thus, we will examine chaos as conceived by Guattari. Chapter 2. On the nature of chaos. Guattari criticizes the static representations of chaos. Chaos depicts an aspect of the plane of immanence. The chaos of the primordial soup of the plane of immanence is that it can exist only in and as the process of chaotizing. Irreversibly singularizing constitutes the incorporeal universe's U. The process of chaotizing and irreversibly singularizing the incorporeal universes are two sides to the same coin. Guattari describes the machinic phylum, Phi, and incorporeal universes, U, as vibrating. Each of the configurations that it can outline has the gift of dissolving, at an infinite, if not absolute speed. In its essence, chaos is rigorously ungraspable. The plane of immanence U is also ungraspable. It appears and disappears at infinite speed, and as such, chaos and the incorporeal universes, U, cannot be grasped. What is the static representation of chaos? Is it a state in which elements move randomly, such as Brownian motion? Guattari describes this as a soup of redundancies that establishes module function or sensible smoothing. Alternatively, when we speak of chaotic representations, we may imagine Lorentz attractors, Rossler attractors, and the Mandelbrot set. For example, nihonium, atomic number 113, is made by accelerating the nucleus of zinc, atomic number 30, to collide with the nucleus of bismuth. Atomic number 83. During the process, the nuclei collide 400 trillion times, and the synthesis is successful only 3 times. Furthermore, the lifetime of nihonium is about 0.02 of a second. Nihonium decays in a fraction of a second. Is this how chaos is supposed to be? Certainly not. The process of protofractalization generates as much disorder as it does complex virtual compositions. These compositions appear and disappear at infinite speed. The virtual status for an entity consists of finding itself caught between 2 infinities, that of an absolute existential intensification and that of immediate abolition. The entity of the plane of immanence appears and disappears between intensification and abolition. This immediacy does not mean that it disappears immediately after intensification. Intensification and abolition, dare I say, occur directly and without mediation. In Guattari's opinion, the effects of chaos are as follows. 1. In returning to chaos, it will always be possible to rediscover in it a complexification of the state of things. Chaos is not merely the complexity of things and elements, it is hypercomplexity. Guattari distinguishes chaotic hypercomplexity, virtual, non-discursive and constantly on the way to dissolution, from ordinary complexity, which is proper to real flows and possibilistic phyla. Two, chaos is not only disorder, harboring the discursive complexity proper to state things, but it is equally capable of self-generating instances of discursivization of this same complexity. The figure and the ground are mutually interchangeable. Cartography is about linking that mutual interchangeability to existential territories. Sentence and context, condition and conditioned, subject and object, system and environment, passive and active, etc. are interchangeable. Chaos is not only the bearer of pre-programmed, morphogenic potentials, it harbors the process embryos that enable mutant morphogenesis to be brought to light. Therefore, chaos includes bifurcation points with an unpredictable mutant filter. Unpredictability. It is only by starting from a virtual, non-discursive state of chaotic material that the relation of endo-consistency between the existential territories and their universe of reference is constituted. Chapter 3. Being, Consistency and Fractal, Molecular Consistency. Why can such a relationship be established between machinic phylum, phi, and the incorporeal universes, U? Guattari distinguishes between 2 types of relations, the relation of reference and of consistency. The referenced are the flow, F, and the machinic phylum, phi. The referring are the incorporeal universes U, and the existential territory, T. Reference is different from interaction. Nothing moves between the referenced and the referring. These changes of state are brought about without any transfer of energy and at an infinite speed of transformation, plus infinity power. Guattari redefines consistency through the notion of reference speed. He attempts to redefine consistency as being affected by two fundamentally different types of iteration: infinite speed and decelerated speed. Deceleration leads us to draw out consistency as a fundamental new dimension of assemblage, whose operations begin in chaos. Guattari refers to such consistency as the acquisition of fractal and molecular consistency. Now, what is consistency? The Stoics thought about consistency to imagine non-object things of a dimension other than being. For the Stoics, being things are objects. They further considered non-object things that are not objects and therefore do not be. These are void, place, time, and lecta, sayable. Incidentally, Deleuze, in his Logic of Sense, describes non-object events as exobeing, which is what they consist of. Guattari perceives what consists in another form, what is called fractal consistency and molecular consistency. The transference at infinite speed between phi and u is ephemeral and absolutely labile. It is zero consistency. It is non-consistent. Zero consistency, yet consistent. Exoconsistency is iteration, repetition, and reference at infinite speed and without consistency. In endoconsistency, consistency is intensified and things consist. Decelerating speed intensifies consistency. If iteration and reference are decelerated, consistency is given. Fractures of consistency give capacity, thus attaining an active and processual capacity for quitting a passive regime. Guattari conceives that the opening to exoconsistency is the transition to active connectivity. With such opening, the being-nothingness delimitation is replaced by an infinite variety of existential intensities.
The last French schizoanalyst, the desire machine, the demigod, the cartographer of four functors. Subjugated groups are close behind the beautiful lone molecule.
Chapter 4. Chaos Effects. The effects of chaos are powdery. Sign particles that have acquired potentiality lead to the release of an existential surplus value. The effect of chaos is potentiality. As it were, conversion to hyperactivity, the better set off in processual directions. Guattari draws a line toward the exterior of consistency. The line phi nm power of exoconsistency is composed of all points of bifurcation proper to the field of possibility. The lines phi compose the rhizomes of abstract machine possibility. The line phi nm power of exoconsistency authorizes the passage from an arrangement of the order n to an arrangement of order m. The passage from one order of one meaning or value to another order of a different meaning or value. Exoconsistency correlates to a loss of ontological consistency. What does a loss of ontological consistency mean? In the Stoic argument, consistency is the dimension in which the non-object field, that of meaning and events, are established. Exoconsistency is the field in which consistency is given. In other words, it is a non-semantic, non-eventual, and non-existential property. These properties would be chaotic. Guattari distinguishes three types of consistency, iterated as follows. 1. Exoconsistent domain, characterized by its capacity to open up new fields of possibility. consequent to the enacting of new constellations of universes of reference, sigma U. U and phi vibration, synaptic function, null and hot consistency, and deterritorialized consistency, including regularities and algorithms. 2. Transconsistent or transistent domains, within which processes of filtering and striation are at work, of the mixture, crossing over, molding, catalysis, fusion, etc., between phi and F, or between T and U includes expressive and diagrammatic functions, heterogenesis, intermediarity and striation. 3. Endo-consistent domains, composed of a decelerated series of flow, both maximal and cold, passive and purely connective. Maximal consistency is the state in which being and consistency are given. Existential surplus values, potentiality, hypercomplexity, and hyperactivity, is capitalized by mutational filters. This is the pathic mode of referencing. Deterritorialized referencing only operates at infinite speed, that is to say, with no ontological consistency, only when consistency is externalized. Pathos can be said to be exoconsistency. Is pathos exoconsistency? Why is chaos necessary for the production of subjectivity in the first place? Guattari responds, we return to find a new direction in chaotic consistency. Finding direction in chaos, chaotic direction. Chaotic consistency is the chaos of the material of expression. Chaotic direction is essential for the production of subjectivity. Guattari regards such a chaotic domain as the domain of pathos. In my opinion, such emotion seems to be a type of psychophysics, relatable to Spinoza's geometry of emotion. What can be extracted from these representations of chaos? For one, Guattari describes a level of inconsistency that is external to consistency. It is chaotic, appearing and disappearing at the same time, everywhere and nowhere. In such a movement, new direction is found, the chaotic direction. The simultaneity of being and non-being, or the compatibility of omnipresence and omni-non-presence, is what Guattari considers chaos. It is there, but at the same time it is nowhere to be found. Chapter 5. Two Significances of Chaos. Examining Guattari's chaos can be significant in two ways. One is chaos as the driving force behind the production of subjectivity through the schizoanalytic cartography method. We seek to regain direction in the chaos. That direction is chaos. A search for chaotic direction. Guattari's chaotic representation is a description of another way or mode of complexity about being and non-being, presenting the second significance. The Greek philosopher Parmenides drew a line between being and non-being, and we have developed one distinguishing thought about it. Afterwards, the Stoics thought of things consisting on a different level than they exist, non-object things. Guattari's incorporeal universe or plane of immanence is external to beingness. Guattari pluralizes, integrates and fractalizes the distinction between being and non-being. In other words, beingness presents an infinite number of ways of being and non-being. An infinite number of views of the distinction. How does Guattari depict it? The speed of decidability is important when capturing Guattari's concept of existence. D-infinity power integral, that is what is external to consistency. Guattari's speed of determinability can be thought of as a concept that determines limits, the way of being. Every individual thing is given existence as duration and is finite. The determination of determinability is to be finite, that is, to be given limited being in duration. Moreover, the possibility of determinability is the possibility of a speed that constitutes a mode of being. An infinite speed of determinability is a state where the speed at which finiteness is reached is an infinite speed, that is to say, a state in which being is determined or limited as an individual thing. Moreover, the infinitely slow speed of determinability is the state of not reaching the determination of being as persistence. Given this in ratio, being is distinguished from non-being. The uniqueness or singularity of Guattari's thought is that he presents a different formulation of this combination of speeds of determinability. In the domain of flow F, the infinite speed d plus infinity power and the infinitely slow speed of determinability, d minus infinity power, are expressed in the ratio relationship d plus infinity power over d minus infinity power. The flow F is constituted by the distinction between the infinite speed and infinitely slow speed of determinant C. The ratio of these two speeds gives a different constitutive relation in the other three domains. Thus, we will check each of them. In territory T, the various series in flow F are screened and distinguished. Guattari describes this as d minus infinity power integral d plus infinity power, and states that negative determinant C integrates positive determinant C. He states that in this domain there is simply a negative power of freezing and of the selection of positive traits. It means infinitely slow speed stops and selects the infinite speed of determinability. That is, territory T can be understood as a function of recapturing being series, d plus infinity power, by non-being series, d minus infinity power. This relationship between the speed of determinability of the flow F and the territory T is complementary. Guattari also only sees being and non-being series symmetrically. However, this relation of the speed of determinability has a different way of being in the machinic phylum Phi and in the universe U. In the phylum Phi, there is one phase surface Phi that functions with the speed d plus infinity power that recaptures the negativity d minus infinity power. Here, the deterritorialized partition is given consistency. As an integral of negative determinability, it is expressed as d plus infinity power integral d minus infinity power. In a nutshell, we can think of exo-consistency brought into consistency. As outside of being and consistency, the deterritorialized domain is the domain of such exo-consistent things. To use Spinoza's expression in Ethica, essence, which exists only in the infinite attributes of God, is given persistence as a finite aspect. The speed of determinability is given a constitutive relation of ratio in the existential domain. This constitutive relation is forcibly transformed into an integral in the phylum Phi. Finally, in universe U, a situation is depicted in which these two rates of determinability are given simultaneously and immediately. They are depicted in the very peculiar expression of the infinite speed of determinability for the achievement of unlimited complexity, and their dissolution at the first moment of their achievement. The relation between those speeds is given the expression of irreducibility, d plus or minus infinity power. This speed of determinability of the universe U is also considered as depicting the vibration of the relationship between the phylum phi and the universe U. The constitutive relation of the ratio of the speeds of determinability is transformed and deified in the possible and virtual domains. Guattari's thought started from the point where he considered the relations of being and non-being as ratios and reached the point where he deconstructs and deforms these relations. In a very unique way, it depicts the giving expression to a non-being essence, which until then is not given existence as duration and can only be grasped in God's infinite intellect. The essence grasped by the infinite intellect of Spinoza's God cannot be grasped by us, the finite. Why? Because we are constituted by a real distinction between extension attributes and thought attributes. That distinction is a really distinct one. What Guattari attempts to depict in the exoconsistency or plane of immanence, so to speak, is a fractalized, non-existent, or exoconsistency domain of that real distinction. Conclusion. We have examined Guattari's concept of chaos. Guattari's chaos is not random, as in Brownian motion, nor is it ultra-short-lived, as in Nihonium, or a nonlinear mathematical representation. There are two significances to considering Guattari's chaos. The first is to be involved in the production of subjectivity and to reproduce subjectivity in its chaotic direction. Second is that Guattari's chaos presents another way of looking at being. It is a fractal, consistent domain outside of being and consistency. The plane of immanence is drawn by a deterritorialized and fractalized domain. This exodomain of being and consistency presents another way of looking at our way of being and encourages a more positive understanding of the infinite intellect of Spinoza's God.
Thank you for listening. See you next time. Radio station out. Hello Guattari. Hello Guattari. Hello Guattari. Put it on.